Hi! Welcome back to Lunalikha. Today I wanted to make a video that will hopefully help other hobbyists or budding new clay artists out there. Let's talk about my clay sculpting essentials. My name is Samantha and I switched to polymer clay 2 years ago, but some of these tools I've had with me since 2019 when I mainly use cold porcelain, air dry clay, and resin clay. So no matter what clay you're using, these tools will also work for you, and I really hope you'll find this video helpful. Let's begin with the most important thing, which is clay. I mainly use Sculpey Primo, Fimo, and Cernit. I also sometimes use Craft Smart. It honestly depends on what I am making because these brands have different firmness levels. So if I am making a chibi or any humanoid figure with a lot of details, then I would prefer a harder clay like Sculpey Primo or Fimo Professional. I tend to have warm hands, which helps with conditioning the clay and getting it to a workable state. Alternatively, I find myself reaching for Fimo Soft for simpler projects, and I definitely don't shy away from mixing these clay brands sometimes. As you keep working with clay, you're going to figure out which clay brand or even clay mixture is the best for your project. As for storing, I just keep my clay in this plastic organizer box, which you can find almost anywhere. If you're in the US, you can find these at Michael's or Hobby Lobby, or you can just get it from Amazon. Generally, they're called bead organizers or tackle boxes. Just make sure that when you're buying storage for your polymer clay, look for recycling number 5 because polymer clay has plasticizers, so it will react and melt other types of plastics. If you want to know more about this, I will link an article below from the Blue Bottle Tree. By the way, if you want some of the same products I am using, I will do my best to link them in the description box below. And if you use my links, I will get a small commission at 0 additional cost to you. But like I said, these are the same supplies that I use, and it also helps me out, so thank you. When I was a newbie artist, I was so excited about supplies, so much so that over the years I hoarded a lot of tools. If I see my favorite clay artist with a tool that I didn't have, I would buy it right away. But I realized that the more I owned, the less creative I became. So now I've narrowed down my tools more to just the essentials. And I store them all here in my metal organizer for easy access on my table. I know it might still seem like a lot, but everything I have here are tools that I actually use. The first up are my ride or die tools, the needle tool and the sculpting rod. They are used for adding details and texture on your clay. I sometimes even use them as a mini rolling pin or a dotting tool. With the needle tool, you can even use this middle part for adding texture. Out of the two, the needle tool is a more all-around tool. I bought the sculpting rod because I used to watch a lot of sculptors use it, and it ended up being a great tool for sculpting full-scale figures. In the Filipino clay community, it is a huge flex if you've never dropped your tools and damaged the tip. And for the record, I have never ever dropped these. They are still very sharp, and I hope I don't jinx myself. So anyway, these two are, in my opinion, must-haves. Another super useful tool is definitely an X-Acto knife, so you can do clean cuts on clay. And I also use this to scrape unwanted particles off of my baked pieces. You can buy just one and get blade replacements if you don't want to get a hobby knife set. Next up, we got this set of rubber shapers. These are mostly used for precision sculpting, and I use it to smooth out surfaces, especially if it's too small for my fingers or if I want to remove fingerprints on my creations. They are all very useful, but I mostly just use the flat shaper, the angled chisel, as well as this tapered one. These come in multiple sizes and firmness, but I find this black set to be the best one for my needs. I also have these 3 random tools, which are just bigger versions of the rubber shapers that I mentioned, all of which I luckily got individually from people doing art stash sales instead of getting different multiple sets. Next is a pasta machine. I think you can get by without one if you're just doing this as a hobby, But if you're making multiple items and want to save time or simply want to take better care of your hands, then I highly suggest that you invest in one. especially if you're planning on doing this as a business. I had a bit of a learning curve when it came to conditioning polymer clay when I started, because it felt so hard and I was used to air dry clay that was much softer and didn't need conditioning. But once I got the hang of it, and like I said earlier, my hands tend to be warm, so I found that I don't really need to exert much effort in conditioning the clay. If you're like me, you might think that applying a lot of pressure to polymer clay will soften it faster, but in reality, you might just need to relax your hands and continuously roll the clay. When I do it, I think of it as becoming one with the clay. If you can't get a pasta machine right away, the alternative is to get a rolling pin. As a matter of fact, I used to use a non-stick rolling pin with 2 thickness guides for air dry clay. But for polymer clay, I prefer this metal rolling pin, and it also comes with more thickness ring guides. It is a bit big, but it gets the job done. If you just have a plain cylindrical tube as a rolling pin, even if it's a bottle, that's completely fine. You can use popsicle sticks on the sides as your thickness guide. If you still can't get a hold of a rolling pin, then we have acrylic blocks. A favorite of mine for sure, because I use it to make balls or logs of clay, and you can use it to flatten clay too. They're pretty cheap on Amazon, and I've seen some at Michael's and Hobby Lobby as well. I unfortunately don't have an exact link for these specific ones because these were gifted to me. They were getting rid of it at their office, and instead of throwing it out, they thought I could use it, so yay! To add more details to my creations, I've got these dotting tools. I use them to make indentations or textures or patterns. They're perfect for making cute charms or even worry stones. This set of big ones can also be found at baking supply stores because I believe they use it for fondant flowers. Meanwhile, these small ones are used in nail art. And speaking of, I have nail art brushes. You don't need those fancy, expensive detail brushes. I mean, if you have the money for it and you want to, go for it. But I personally love how thin nail art brushes are. They're cheap, so it won't burn a hole in your pocket if you need to repurchase, and each and every single brush that comes with the set is usable, at least in my own opinion. And as you can see, it even comes with an even tinier dotting tool. A lot of times you can get these brushes and dotting tools as a set for cheap, and they may even come with extra things bundled in. For example, it might come with some pigments, which is what you might need to color your clay. To this day, I still get asked a lot about how I apply gradients on my creations and blushes, and the answer is soft pastels. Same as my other tools, I've had these since 2019, and I have yet to run out. I have to simply because my friends gifted me a box the exact same day my order came in. Aside from soft pastels, feel free to use mica powders, nail art chrome powders, and even old makeup. If you or somebody you know has an eyeshadow or blush palette that they don't use or has expired, put it to good use, because even the ones that don't look pigmented on the skin look really good on clay. Trust me. Moving on to pliers. These are for attaching findings to your clay charms or armature wire to your clay figures. Obviously, we have a cutter here, a flat nose plier, and a round nose plier in case I need to make my own eye pins. On to wires and findings. These are essential whether you're making charms, keychains, jewelry, or figures. I know some artists prefer using eye pins because they don't have to make the loop, but I personally prefer head pins sometimes because this pin right here will serve as an anchor, especially for keychains, so that it doesn't slide off and you are left off with nothing but the pin. It's even worse if you are a business and your customer loses the actual clay piece. We don't want that. The good thing is paper clips work too. Just make sure that you're using a non-coated paper clip if you're going to put it in the oven. On the contrary, air dry clay users use coated paper clips if you don't have any option. Otherwise, your findings should always be stainless or brass to avoid rust. Air dry clay has moisture and you don't want the rust to bleed onto your clay pieces when it cures or dries. In a business for handmade items, there will always be variations in each piece, but I think all clay artists would agree that all pieces should be as consistent as possible. So in order to do that, a digital scale like this, which is actually a jewelry scale, is extremely helpful. And this measures 1/100 of a gram, so I can weigh the clay needed for certain projects. If you don't have a digital scale, you can also use cutters after evening it out with a rolling pin. Round cutters are the easiest and most basic shape to find, plus I also use these for making skirts for my chibis and figures. If you just need it for measuring clay, it doesn't even have to be round. Which brings us to silicone molds. Yes, you can also use these as your measuring guide. For the longest time, I had nothing but a half sphere mold to measure the clay I needed for my clay commissions. And obviously, you can use your molds for its intended purpose, which is to make specific or certain shapes and objects. During my first few years as a clay artist, I would feel guilty whenever I use molds. So for example, I will sculpt each and every single petal for my flowers, but I eventually gave in because these can save you a lot of time, and there's just so many cute molds out there. And like I said, molds are there for an intended purpose, plus they are very helpful with the consistency of your clay pieces. But I still firmly believe that you don't need any to begin your clay journey. Consider molds as a bonus to your kit, but not a necessity. What's a necessity, however, are Q-tips and rubbing alcohol. Maybe some paper towels, wet wipes, and acetone. You need these to clean your sculpting area, your tools, your hands, and even your creations. Having a clean workstation is very important if you want your crafts to have a clean and professional look. It's really hard to avoid dust on something so pliable, but that's why we have cleaning materials. So this is the only part that will not be applicable to air dry clay users, but for polymer clay artists, I like to have these three, namely TLS or translucent liquid sculpey, to make whipped cream or frosting if you add pigments to it, or even bits of polymer clay. I've also used this to soften hard blocks of clay as well as to bond clay pieces. This comes in several colors, but I only have the translucent one. This is really handy to have and something I would recommend if you can only get one of these three. But I personally also have an actual softener, and I also have an oven bake adhesive because I find that it binds my pieces better. And before I forget, you don't need an expensive sculpting mat. I'm using a glass one from Hobby Lobby, but you can use cardstock or any printer paper if you are using polymer clay. Meanwhile, air dry clay users, you can use a plastic folder and it's the best. When I began my clay journey, I sculpted in our living room on our coffee table while sitting on the floor. This hobby doesn't have to be expensive at all. As long as you have your hands and creativity, you have everything you need. I want to emphasize that you really don't need a lot of tools, nor should you go out and buy the most expensive tools out there. For example, I had an 11-piece sculpting set. Out of that 11-piece set, the only tool I actually ever used was this spearhead tool, which is still one of my favorite tools to this day. I have a friend with the exact same 11-piece set that I'm talking about, but her favorite tool is different from mine. Her favorite tool was the drill tool. So as you can see, some of these tools can also be very personal to you. If you just want to use one, if you want to use 10, it's all entirely up to you. But if you're just beginning, I hope you are not intimidated by the amount of tools that you see in other clay artists' videos. So that about wraps it up for my clay essentials. The tools mentioned in this video will definitely help you, but the most important thing to remember is to not be afraid to start or think that you need a lot of money to start claying. If you ask me for my top 3 essentials, it would just be my needle tool, an X-Acto knife, and an acrylic block. That's it. Everyone's clay journey starts somewhere, and even if you just have clay in your own two hands, you will be able to create something amazing. I just know it. Thank you guys for watching. I hope I was able to convey the usefulness of these essential tools for clay. And if I did, I hope you will support me by liking and sharing this video. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any of my future uploads. If you have a favorite sculpting tool, share it with me in the comments. Whether I have mentioned it in this video or not, I would really like to know. Remember to check out the description for helpful links, and once again, thank you so much. With love and a sprinkle of stardust, see you in the next video.